welcome to another Makarios Book Club panel discussion. Today we've got with us some special guests all the way from sunny Belize. We have our missionary pastors, Lady Pastor Esme, woo, and Reverend Rotendo. And also joined with us, we've got Priscilla. So today is a very special one. So we're going to be discussing our book of the month, which we read was Faith Secrets by Bishop Dagwood Mills. This is a very, very special, a very special book to read. So we're going to be discussing it, and we're going to also have a Q&A. Some of you have sent your questions in, and we're going to try our best to answer your questions as best as we can. So guys, how was the book?
I can't tell you how powerful that book is. It was so powerful. So many words of advice, counsel, and direction. That book is full of direction and practical direction as well. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think that it's a book on faith, right? So it really made me. I didn't know that there were different areas where I could exercise my faith. So that was one thing that I really loved about the book. Yeah, the chapters. I was like, oh, so you can put faith here? Like,
Yes.
oh, you can have faith for this, So yeah, I really loved it.
I love that the chapters were short as well.
Ah,
It's
yes.
a
Oh,
big
yes.
book to read in a month.
Yeah.
So I was so
Nice.
happy that it was short chapters. You could read some here and there.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And I think one of my favorite chapters so far was the faith in the little things. And faith is obedience in the little things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we like to think that because you're obedient in the big things, it means you're a better Christian. It means you're a good Christian. But rather, when God gives you those small, or even when your pastor gives you those
Yeah.
small instructions, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
that's very small. I want to do something. us some special guests all the way from sunny Belize. We have our missionary pastors, Lady Pastor Esme, woo, and Reverend Retender, woo, and also joined with us we've got Priscilla. So today is a very special one. So we're going to be discussing our book of the month, which we read was Faith Secrets by Bishop Dagwood Mills. This is a very, very special, a very special book to read. So we're going to be discussing it, and we're going to also have a Q&A. Some of you have sent your questions in, and we're going to try our best to answer your questions as best as we can. So guys, how was the book?
I can't tell you how powerful that book is. It was so powerful. So many words of advice, counsel, and direction. That book is full of direction and practical direction as well. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think that it's a book on faith, right? So it really made me. I didn't know that there were different areas where I could exercise my faith. So that was one thing that I really loved about the book. Yeah, the chapters. I was like, oh, so you can put faith here? Like, oh, you can have faith for this, So yeah, I really loved it.
I love that the chapters were short as well.
Ah, yes.
It's a big book to read in a month.
Yeah.
So I was so happy that it was short chapters. You could read some here and there.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And I think one of my favorite chapters so far was the faith in the little things. And faith is obedience in the little things. Because sometimes we like to think that because you're obedient in the big things, it means you're a better Christian. It means you're a good Christian. But rather, when God gives you those small, even when your pastor gives you those small instructions, and you're like, oh, that's very small. I want to do something bigger. Yes, so that was one of my favorite chapters. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think one of the chapters I really liked was Faith Loves Preparation, which was if you're hoping for something, or if you have faith that something's going to happen, you actually have to prepare for that thing. And I think a lot of the times I just thought, have faith and just believe that God will just make it happen, but you don't prepare for it. So I really like that part.
Well, I think for me, chapter 5 was a blessing. I loved chapter 5. Faith is to go forward. It was a powerful chapter, and I was meditating on it and reading, the scriptures that Prophet wrote in the book, and I was realizing that in order to move forward, you need faith. You actually use faith to move.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another Makarios Book Club panel discussion. Today we've got with us some special guests all the way from sunny Belize. We have our missionary pastors, Lady Pastor Esme, woo, and Reverend Retender, woo, and also joined with us we've got Priscilla. So today is a very special one. So we're going to be discussing our book of the month, which we read was Faith Secrets by Bishop Dagwood Mills. This is a very, very special, a very special book to read. So we're going to be discussing it, and we're going to also have a Q&A. Some of you have sent your questions in, and we're going to try our best to answer your questions as best as we can. So guys, how was the book?
I can't tell you how powerful that book is. It was so powerful. So many words of advice, counsel, and direction. That book is full of direction and practical direction as well. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think that it's a book on faith, right? So it really made me. I didn't know that there were different areas where I could exercise my faith. So that was one thing that I really loved about the book. Yeah, the chapters. I was like, oh, so you can put faith here, like, oh, you can have faith for this, you know. So yeah, I really loved it.
I love that the chapters were short as well. You know?
Ah, yes.
Oh, yes.
Books to read in a month.
Yeah.
So I was so happy that it was short chapters. You could read some here and there.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And I think one of my favorite chapters so far was the faith in the little things. And faith is obedience in the little things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we like to think that because you're obedient in the big things, it means you're a better Christian. It means you're a good Christian. But rather, when God gives you those small, or even when your pastor gives you those small instructions, and you're like, oh, that's very small. I want to do something bigger. Yes, so that was one of my favorite chapters. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think one of the chapters I really liked was Faith Loves Preparation, which was if you're hoping for something, or if you have faith that something's going to happen, you actually have to prepare for that thing. And I think a lot of the times I just thought, have faith and just believe that God will just make it happen, but you don't prepare for it. So I really like that part.
Wow. Well, I think for me, chapter 5 was a blessing. I loved chapter 5. Faith is to go forward. It was a powerful chapter, and I was meditating on it and reading, the scriptures that Prophet wrote in the book, and I was realizing that in order to move forward, you need faith. You actually use faith to move forward. And the scripture that Prophet refers to, which is Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 22 to 23, which says that and Tebera and at Massa and at Kibble Hativa, ye provoke the Lord to wrath. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Kedet Bana, saying, go up and possess the land. So usually to go forward, it's a voice or it's an instruction that you must obey, which causes you to move forward. So it's like an instruction, something that you hear, that you obey, and then that causes you to move forward. But if you don't have faith in what has been said, you doubt the instruction, you won't obey, and you don't move forward. So it was just something that really got me thinking that, in my life, it's the little voices, do this, do that, that have made me move forward and believing those words.
So would you also say that is the little conviction that you feel within you that makes you move forward?
Yeah. So believing that this person, what they've said, let me obey, let me take this voice, what they've said seriously. That is you have to believe in that. You have to believe in that in order to move forward.
With that being said, sorry, I just have a question on that. What if you feel like maybe God is telling you to do something and you want to actually move ahead with it, but what if maybe it's your own desire that's speaking to you? Because there are also many ways.
That's true.
How can you?
That is also a very good point. That sometimes our flesh gets in the way. Sometimes our mind. Sometimes other things cloud us as well. So, but I think that another part is to also pray as well. And, sometimes we also need to pray and make sure that it's really God that I'm hearing. Sometimes you need to have that peace to know that this is the voice of God that I need to obey. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's true because our feelings can mess us up. And I don't know if you guys have heard stories of people who say, oh, I married this woman because God told me to, right?
Yeah.
Then in a few years they divorce, and I'm like, but God told you to marry the person. So how is that? So yeah, you're right. Sometimes we will say God told me, God pushed me, but sometimes it's just your feelings.
It's your feelings,
Yes. And I don't know if it's happened to any of you. Sometimes you watch a movie and you dream about it.
Oh yes,
right? Or you see something and then you dream about it. So maybe sometimes because we dream about something or we have a feeling about something, then it's like, oh, this is it. I had a dream. So I think it's always good to check it with the word of God. Make sure your feelings are not into it. Take yourself out of it. And the Bible says that with the word of 2 or 3 more witnesses, a matter is established. So the more people confirm it, I think for me, I never trust myself. I think for me, even if it's God, like I want to hear that it's God. Like I like different people, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Someone said, oh wow, then it must be God.
So for you then, LB, how do people like confirm it to you? Is it like they've had dreams, or they're just an idea, or maybe in a conversation?
Yes. So sometimes, if it's something I'm thinking about, right? Okay, maybe I have an idea, right? And I'm thinking about it, but I brush it aside. Then another person comes and says I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh, hold on, like, Then another person, sometimes 2 or 3 people, I'm like, okay, I have to start paying attention. Then I start praying into it, and then I just make a move. So yeah.
Before Reverend Candace said about, when you have faith in you, and that's also one of the chapters in the book, that faith moves. Yeah. In the church that we are, something is always being done.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
It's always there. Prophet is there.
yes.
Different pastors are being sent
Yeah.
here and sent there.
Yeah.
So I think with us as young people, sometimes we don't want to. We're so content, like we're so happy being in our church, being in, especially in the UK. We're so content with being in the UK that we're not really people that move.
Yeah.
So when I hear someone in First of UK is gone on missions, someone in First of UK they're in Europe, they're building church, I'm like, wow. It takes a huge amount of faith to even go on missions and to go somewhere. So what advice would you give to people that they want to go on missions, they want to move, but sometimes it's like maybe their parents are kind of pulling them back, or they're like, oh, they postpone it, and then they don't end up moving. So how do you advise people?
If you read this book, Faith Secrets, did you guys notice something that Prophet kept saying at the end of his chapter?
Yeah, he had this
Did you
phrase
notice
that he kept.
There was a phrase where he kept saying that,
he said,
like build up your faith. Faith comes
Faith
by
hearing.
hearing.
That's
Oh
it.
yeah, in all the time.
All the time.
Every
Listening
chapter,
by
listening to
Yeah.
messages,
Yeah.
faith comes by hearing. So that is the answer. I think that Prophet was saying that you have to, in everything that he's saying, you have to build up your faith, build up your faith, build up your faith by what you hear.
I think that's very true. And the thing is, for me, I think that faith is actually the one of the foundations of our existence. Like every place where you are, you see, the job that you're doing or the career that you chose it because somebody has mentioned that it's a good approach. What you hear moves you to a certain conviction. So if you keep listening to messages of working for God, giving yourself wholly, you don't even plan to, but by the time you realize you're doing it, So same way, if you also are only focused on money, you can make it. You see that you don't even plan to have money, but it's like by the time you realize. So that's why we have to be very careful what we hear all the time and the things we listen to and the type of voices that we listen to, because knowingly and unknowingly, that's your faith base, that's the faith platform, and that's what's going to make you and going to build you. Like many people like America, but America is not all that.
Oh, it's not.
But it's because of the faith. It's because of the faith that the world has put in America. But if you look at the number of people that are dying, the number of even poverty and so many things are happening. It's
And
all
I think
coming
you
from
hear,
America.
they always say the American dream. They always
Yes,
hammer
yes,
American dreams. So people have faith in the American dream that when you go to America, you can make it.
You made it.
And something that people constantly hear.
Yeah.
That has made them make that decision. Yes, it's true.
So with that being said as well, let's say you're constantly listening to messages or preachers, maybe different types of messages and preachers. And maybe let's say Bishop is constantly talking about maybe going on missions or starting your own branches. So because of that now you're zealous. You want to start your own branch. What if it's not the will of God but you're just zealous from
That's a very good one. I think that God will still look at your efforts, right? And God will find a way to tell you that, sit down. Yeah. So, because with faith, anybody who has faith, like he said in the chapter, faith moves. Anybody who has faith makes a move. And think about it. Abraham made a move for God. But on his journey, he made so many mistakes.
He did, yeah.
Jacob made a move for God. On his journey, he makes so many mistakes. So, having faith and thinking that, I have faith, I'm doing it, doesn't mean that's going to be 100%. You will make mistakes on the way, but God will say, no, at this point, turn here. You messed up here, turn here. But sometimes we think that because God has spoken, it means that everything will be perfect. No, it's not everything that's going to fall in line. So sometimes we just have to take it easy with ourselves. And then just obey and do what you think. So like the same thing, listen to messages and this is what you feel about it. You should go with it. But then when God comes back again and says, you know what, this is not what I told you, He will give you the clear picture. And that same faith and that same humility should get you to turn in the new direction. And that's why when we look at our prophet's life, he's always going from one thing to another. So someone could get up and say, so then you are not supposed to be a pastor, then you are supposed to be an evangelist. Why didn't you start as an evangelist in the first place? No, his faith was to start a church. Then that same faith grew to start an evangelistic ministry. And that same faith grew to start a Bible school. So it's the same faith. So the fact that you've started this doesn't mean that okay, God hasn't called you. Maybe it's just a stepping stone. You know, and even if it's wrong, like I said, God will always.
I think Prophet is a great example of like someone that faith is working in different areas of his ministry. Because he's got an evangelistic ministry, there's got a teaching ministry.
Yes.
And it's sometimes when I listen to him, I'm just like, wow. Because I'm just like, damn, like some of the stuff he says, I mean,
Yes,
deep.
it is.
It's
deep.
really
It's deep stuff.
really
Yes,
deep, bro.
yes.
So I think sometimes with us, it's like we only expect God to move in certain areas which we want to.
Yeah.
And even when we start, we're like, okay, God has called us to do this.
Yeah.
When it doesn't go like straight from A to B, we're like, oh, maybe it's not God's will, and then we check our safety. So we don't really like, because you guys are mentioned. We would always think, oh, they are mentioned, it's working perfectly. But we don't know what you guys go through.
Oh my!
Sometimes when you mention something, it's like, damn. Because if it was me or anyone else, like, we'll be like, oh, it's
Freak out.
Let's go back to the UK. So I think sometimes you can actually see someone, and you've got a great example of people that faith is working in their life, and you can see that they're actually living by faith. Some of us will say we're living by faith, but we've got backup.
Yes.
Plans.
But I think that, you see, for me, faith is a lifestyle for me. Sometimes when I'm working online, my computer's freezing. Like instantly, I would just say a short prayer, and the next minute I realize the Wi-Fi is back on. Like just faith has to be practical, and faith has to be every day, and faith has to be every situation. I remember last week my daughter, she had high temperature, she was waking up in the middle of the night. It was terrible, right? And every mother's instinct would be like, rush her to the hospital. I just gave her a cup and I laid hands and I said, by the morning, by faith, you will be, healed. And she's back to normal. And sometimes we even have to have faith that even though this is happening right now, you should have faith for a bigger picture. So sometimes I project, I'm like, okay, tomorrow will be better. And because I've already had faith that tomorrow will be better, it gets me to relax even when the storm is happening, because it's like we are just going through it. Tomorrow is going to be better. So faith has to be a lifestyle where no matter the season that you're in, you're telling yourself. And funny enough, I saw something powerful this week, and I was like, oh, this is really true. One man of God said, most of us, we don't break through because as you're praying for the healing or the miracle or the breakthrough to happen, it's like we are claiming it for the future and hoping that it comes. But Kenneth Hagin told, God told Kenneth Hagin that, okay, this is it. We are done with the healing ministry. Like, here's where it ends. But how you can move and accelerate and still be healing is by decreeing. So he was saying that. So, for example, if you are praying for a child, you don't have a child. Today you prayed for a child, Then today you date it. Today's the 25th. 25th. So today I received my child on the. So you confess that today is the day that God solved the problem, even though it hasn't happened. So then you start living the life as if that miracle has come. Then you start thanking God that God, I thank you that I'm holding my baby. So, but we don't. We just sit there. When? But we have to learn to decree. We have to learn to claim and live as if we have that life. So that's faith. That's
because many times people only think about faith as just believe or I believe. But the Bible says faith is the evidence of what faith is the so forth. So you have to be projecting in the future. And sometimes you have to say things in the future. I'm going to do this. I will be doing this. That is faith. Apart from just the believing part, it is the projection into the future. So I agree with what you're saying. That sometimes you
and that's why for me, I would say it as a joke, but people laugh at me. Like I'm always saying, I'm praying for my daughter's marriage. Like. And it's like a joke, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, men are scarce. Like, I'm starting now, right? And I'm praying for a good man for my daughter. And it's like a joke. It's not like it's my prayer topic, like, fasting, but I'm confessing. And so, by the time, the minute my daughter finishes university, if you see her with a man, don't be jealous.
Don't be
Prayers
jealous.
has gone in when they were as early as, you see. So it's a faith thing. It's a lifestyle thing. You have to be saying, even when you're sitting in your small Corsa, you have to say, this is my Mercedes. Like you have to be.
When the Tesla comes,
you know, so I think that it's the way we live the life. We have to live it in a victorious way. You don't only have to see it to believe it. You just have to confess it.
That's
And,
it.
live it. So that's how it is. And I just want to back that with faith and preparation, because it ties in, because you have that faith, you start preparing. If you don't have that faith, that's going to happen for you. You are praying for a husband. You don't have faith that you're going to have the husband. That's why you've not started to learn to cook. That's why you've not started to learn to keep a home. That's why you've not started. So by your faith, by your preparation, God will know that this person is ready.
Yeah.
Let me bring, what is. So faith and preparation is very important. By your faith, you prepare. When the prophet, was it Elijah or Elisha, when he told the lady, what do you have? He said that I have only one jar of oil. He said, bring just collect all your neighbors' bowls. They collected so many barrels, and then they kept pouring, and the oil was not running out. And the minute the last container was full, that was when that small oil ran out. They prepared, and they brought, also until those things were brought, and until the oil was being poured, they never saw the miracle. So sometimes you have to prepare, you have to lay the things bare before God, then God will see that you're ready, then the miracle.
I really love that one, because it shows that faith also leads you to actually move and to act. So sometimes, like Rev said, sometimes we just believe that, we're just believing, we're just saying that we're praying.
Yeah.
But it's like, in terms of preparation, how do you, because especially with the marriage thing, because some of us go and say, if we were to come get married today, we're ready. But as for cooking, you don't have to have a conversation in the house.
Yes.
Because there's two of you in the house. So what's
Thank
the
you.
You can't
There's nothing
cook,
to
you
talk.
can't clean, you can't keep a home. So I think it also shows that we also need there's certain stuff that you can pray about, but you
Yes.
can also prepare actively with it as well. So wow, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I also think that the preparation part as well, it gets God to move.
Yeah.
Because you're preparing, God knows that you actually
You're
really want
ready.
it, that He's going to bring. But I have a question on that as well. Because when I read that chapter, what if you have faith that something's going to come? Maybe, let's say somebody that's terminally ill, and they have faith that God is going to heal them. So they start professing it, they start, making plans for their future, all of this. But what if it's the
They
will
still
of God
die.
for their life to come to an end? Then
Yeah. But that's why so there's this thing I tell people, that God always answers prayers. Okay, but it's not what you expect. So for example, if I call you, right? And if you call me and I answer, right? And then so listen, you've called me, and if I pick up, what have I done? I've answered the call. But you're asking me, I want your black dress, and I'm like, no, I don't have a black dress, but I'm gonna give you a red. Have I answered the call or haven't answered the call?
you didn't give me
I didn't give you the dress that you wanted, but I still answered. So many people say, I prayed, but my prayers were not answered. God answered anyway. Sometimes as we are praying for that terminally ill person, for whatever, sometimes your prayer is the same prayer God will use to console your family, to give you strength, to comfort you, to accept things. So, but we think that God answering prayers is just giving us exactly what we want. It's like me as a parent. When my child always says, Mommy, I want sweet, I want cook, I want sweet, I want cook. It's not every day. I'm not going to give you that every day. I will decide when you need the coke, when you need the sweet. And sometimes I'm like, no, you need water. The child in their myopic mind, which is all of us, my mommy doesn't like me, my mommy didn't answer, my mommy didn't give me coke, but I am the adult and I know what's good for your health. So sometimes, in as much as we prepared and everything, we also have to leave room and add that, God, you know best. And that's what Jesus said. He said, this is what I want, but nevertheless, your will. So that's what it is.
It also reminds me of the story of Catherine Coleman.
Yes.
You know, she was, I think she was sick.
She was sick,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
she never received the healing, but she performed miracles.
Miracles.
So imagine it's like, God is not real because I
Because
was
I'm
healed.
not
real.
But
No.
she was healing people. So I think sometimes, like what you said, sometimes what we want is not what God is always going to give us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a mind sometimes we have to pray. It's like when we are praying, it's like we are expecting it. I'm only praying because things have to go my way. No, sometimes prayer it means that God has other ways that He wants to lead you. Prayer doesn't mean that when you pray, everything has to be done in exactly the way that you're expecting it to. That's a wrong way to approach prayer. It's like you're having a dialogue with somebody. So sometimes you can't expect that the dialogue will always go your way.
Your
No,
way,
sometimes in dialogue with somebody will
You
have
lose some
another. You lose
arguments,
some, you win some. But it's part of dialoguing with people. So that's a wrong mind. I think sometimes it's the mind that we attacked when we are coming to prayer. It's like we are coming only with the one way, not hoping that there's other ways or maybe other things, yes, that God wants to do as we are praying. Yes. So we have to sometimes renew that mind to prayer.
I love it.
So now, guys, we've got loads of questions just come through.
Wow.
So we're going to try answer
Our
some
time
questions.
is already gone.
So our first question, I'll read out the questions. So the first one is, if you put yourself in a bad situation, how can you reverse it with faith? And also, what if the bad situation is part of the will of God for your life? Then how will your faith reverse that? Are you not supposed to endure it?
Okay, that question is a long question.
I think
It's an essay question.
I think that's from the chapter.
Every bad situation.
Yeah, faith reverse. Is it
Yeah,
reverse or something? Every bad situation.
Yeah,
reverse.
19.
Yeah. So I think that it's not like one way answer, if you get what I mean. If by faith, so let's say you have landed yourself in trouble, and then now you are using faith to get you out. Sometimes God will get you out. Sometimes God will also use the bad situation and He'll turn it out for your good, right? And He will let you learn a lesson, even as you're going through that bad situation. So I think that in as much as faith will reverse, are you looking at just the situation, or are you looking at the lesson inside of the mess that you yourself have created? Which is like the part B of the question, where the person says, what if it's the will of God? That's the good question, because what if it's the will of God? Sometimes God wants us to suffer certain things, so we see things in His way. And I believe that most of the things that we suffer are the doors to our ministry. Do you understand? Because even myself as a girl, I find out that I'm able, like the things I've been through, when I meet people who have been through the same thing, I'm able to sort of like, come on, it's not the end of the world, get out. Like I'm able to, hold them, because that's a ministry. But somebody who hasn't seen that or who hasn't had that will not be able to make the same impact to that person. So sometimes it is the will of God, because that may be the key to your ministry. It will be the unique thing about you as a person that you can give to bless humanity. That's what I think.
Very true. No, I agree with you. And sometimes with the faith reversing bad situation, sometimes it will force you to take certain decisions. Sometimes I believe an aspect of faith is faith takes decisions.
Yes.
So sometimes to reverse some things, God will force you to take some certain decisions.
Yeah.
Which would turn things around for you. But if you are not ready to take those decisions, things will never change. Sometimes you are in a bad relationship. Can I go there? You are in a bad relationship. You see, and God is saying, end this situation, but you need that faith to take that decision to end it, to reverse. To reverse
Because
that
you
situation.
said that you've landed yourself.
You see.
Maybe you've aborted how many times in the past? That's the bad situation. So leave.
And it's not the will of God.
That's the answer.
Yes, leave. So sometimes the faith helps you reverse, because by the decisions that sometimes you have to take by faith to change things, your circumstances, and your situations. So sometimes you're not ready to take those decisions, because faith is also taking decisions. Every decision that you make is a decision you make is backed by faith. That the way you sat on a chair, you needed faith to take that decision. Before you said that, you fell off. So it was part of the decision that you're making. There was faith attached to it, because you knew that if I sat on it, I'll be safe. I'll not fall. So that's led you to taking that decision. So that's how it works.
And I also think with the second part about being a part of the will of God, I also think sometimes as young people we lack accountability. So we're so quick to say, oh, God's will for me to be in this situation, but sometimes it's our bad decisions as well.
Yes,
that we also don't want to say that, oh, I made a mistake.
I think we just throw it on God. Like,
we just play. I'm sure God's just like, hey, I did
Yeah.
this like my own.
What you are doing?
That's true.
Alright, so let's move on to another question. So the second question is based on chapter 4. Faith is obeying pleasurable commands. And it says, how do you obey such commands without feeling like you're doing it for your own good?
I like this. I like this. When I was reading this chapter, I was laughing, because even for us as pastors, that's something that we struggle with. We don't know how to rest. And anytime we go on holiday, we feel so guilty. We can't post because we think everybody's gonna think that I'm just chilling, I'm not doing the work of God. So you have this guilt, But the reason why God established the Sabbath was for people to rest, and God knew why. So our God is not a God of just work.
Wow, I like
And the
that.
Bible says that at His right hand there are pleasures evermore. So God is not just a God of hustle. God is also a God of soft life.
That's it.
You know, God is a soft life God.
Wow, I like that.
So I think that it's everything is the balance of it all. So I think I personally this is one of the things that I struggle with. Like even buying nice stuff for myself, treating myself, because it's like I'm not supposed to. Like it's like, even if it's small something, it's always like like people are dying. Somebody can wear you always have that mind that I don't deserve this. But I think obeying, and I think in that chapter, I'm very sure it's the one that Prophet talked about when God instructed Abraham and Sarah that they have to do something pleasurable, So yes, God requires that pleasurable things to be done. And when you know that it's time to take a rest, take a rest. It's time to go on vacation. Go on that vacation. Don't apologize, because God also needs us to also enjoy this.
And I think it's a battle that we always have, though, as human beings. It's as a result of eating the tree of good and evil. It's always because we feel this pleasure of command is too much. That is it good? Is it all that? Because we are using our own human ways and judgments to try and assess and whether is it. But God says, do it, enjoy it. But we, because of that. Knowledge, we are always going to wrestle. I think it's even like what LPS was saying, it's a battle. Even as pastors, it's a constant battle to know, is it God? Is it God? Is it right? Is it me? Is it the flesh? Is it So it's a constant thing that I don't think you ever get to a point. It's like it's gonna be a constant battle that we always face because of the knowledge of it.
That's the thing that is because we put God in this box.
Yes.
If you're doing ministry,
Yes.
the will of God,
Yes, that's
then
it.
you're
We
just gonna have to be
sacrificed.
So when those type of commands come, it just feels like this is it,
This is
right?
not God,
This is not God.
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing. That's what.
Recently, my pastor said, Pastor Nana said something when we had a retreat. He said that if you have the mindset that you're in ministry and you're doing ministry, he said you plan your life.
Yes.
It's not that ministry will actually, like the way you plan your life is not that ministry is backhand.
Thank
Like
you.
the second, like you plan it in terms of like, if you want to go on holiday, and if we're back before Sunday, so
Yes.
you plan it.
Yes.
You can go on holidays, you can still enjoy, have some flight here and there, and come back in time for service on
Exactly.
Sunday. And pick up people as well on Sunday.
Exactly.
I think sometimes we like to make it seem like, oh no, we make it spooky, like, oh no, I can't go on holiday because I'm in church. And then it's bad because then the people you bring to church, when they see, they'll be like, oh, it will scare them away in a bit. They're like, this church I can't go on holiday.
That's the
stuff
thing.
like that.
That's the thing. And that's one thing I always tell people that let's not. There's one thing I always tell Kia, which is I say I like white man Christianity.
Oh yeah.
soft,
Very chilled.
Like we make some things too Holy Ghost.
Oh,
when it's just like a basic.
yeah.
Like it's food. When we bless it, Lord, we bless this food.
Oh,
This is not the time for us to
cast out
cast out demons, any witch that puts the thing in. So
Goodbye,
we
devil,
like to
ancestor and all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes we try and drag things,
Yes.
and I'm sure God is sitting there like, you know what, Ivina? Like Jesus, and the thing is, Jesus has paid the price.
Yeah.
He has done it all. There's nothing. Listen, I can win 1,000 souls. You can win 1 soul, and there's nothing. God will not like me more than He likes you. Nothing you can do will make God love you less, and nothing you can do will make God love you more. As we are all sitting here, God loves us just the same. When you read Luke 15, verse 3, Jesus said that, which of you, having 100 sheep, when he loses one, will not leave the 99 and go for that one? When I read that verse, what came to mind is that the 99 is as important as the one. Because if the one was not important, what do? You leave it.
Yes.
But the fact that you leave the greater and go for the less should show you God's value. All of us, in God's eye, He loves us. So sometimes when people are, ministry, and you don't have time for your friends, you don't have time for, you can't even go for a simple meal. Like, why? Why? And God is sitting there, He's laughing at you, like, me and the angels were eating barbecue. We are jamming, we're having concerts, we're having either concerts in heaven. You are sitting You know, so sometimes we have to try our best. You
Yeah.
know? And even as missionaries, we work hard. But some
Yeah.
Sundays you're like, you know what? Movie. Put the Netflix on.
That's
Why?
true.
There's no that would die. It's not you.
Yeah.
God will give you the grace. So we also have to learn. Of course, we don't have to overdo it, but there has to be a
A
balance.
balance. A balance.
If you do it right, and when God leads you, you know, you know what?
Okay, so our next question is: in almost every chapter, the prophet advises that you should keep listening to preaching messages. But how do you become consistent with doing it over and over again?
Oh, I like this question. Gladly answer this question. It's a habit that you have to cultivate, and I think that one of the mistakes that people make when they listen to things is like they feel that they have to be consciously listening. It's like you have to be sitting there, writing notes, hearing word for word. But you know, like I don't know whether you ever have that experience in a shop, right? And you are browsing, you are doing something, you are browsing, and there's music playing, and unconsciously you're singing along. You know, it's entering you.
Yes.
But it's like you went to the shop for music. Did you go in
No,
there? Maybe you went in to buy a dress, you went in to buy shoes, but there was something just playing in the atmosphere,
Yes.
and then it's entering into you as you're doing other things. So many times when it comes to messages, I always say that look, let the thing just be in around you. If you are sitting somewhere in you're in your office, let the message play. You are in your room, let the message play. Even when you are asleep, let the message be on. That's how to listen to messages. Many people have that wrong mind where it's like you have to be sat down, you have to be focused, you have to have your book, you have to bring your iPad, you have to be writing word for word, all the points. No, you will never, you will struggle to listen to messages. Sometimes with the way life is, it's so busy. Sometimes you don't even get the time to sit down itself and listen. So if you can just be on the go, whatever you are doing, it's on. You're listening to it. You'll be listening. You'll be receiving.
Can I share one of my secrets? And it's personal, so it doesn't apply to everyone. But we're on air, so I'll
Share it.
But it doesn't apply to everyone. When I'm backsliding, I listen to worship more than preaching. Is there a particular reason? I don't know, but I've noticed that when I'm backsliding, my car is always music. My environment is music, music, music. There's something about the word that music can do.
Yeah.
So if you want to go deeper with God, this worship music is appetizer. Maverick is great, but Maverick will not give you something that a camp will give you. So the consistency at which you listen to messages really, really plays a vital role in it.
I'm glad you said. And also the Bible says, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the what? The what? Not the music, but the word.
Not the music of
Not
God.
the music of God, not the music of God, but the word of God. So you see, the faith, sometimes you say, I listen to Christian music. That's why your faith is low. Your faith will never be high because you're not listening to the word. The word. That's why Jesus says that the words that I speak are their spirit and their life, not the music. The words. But many times we struggle. Even sometimes I think that's demonic. Maybe the devil sometimes intentionally uses.
It's true because sometimes people will tell me, oh, LP, this happened to me and I'm going through this and I'm depressed and everything, and I'm like, then I would tell them, play music or play preaching. Most of the time they would choose the music.
Oh, yeah. Because when you play the preaching, sometimes the conviction is strong. Recently, I was listening. I think I actually so bad. I said, let me start listening again. Like, what is your lecture? Oh, quit!
Blasting.
And it's like the exact same thing I was talking to this. And everything, and then you know,
Yeah.
wisdom! I was like, hey, let me just turn this on a little
So you
bit.
see, so that's the point. So it's not like worship, and that's what I'm saying, that this is personal for me. But like, I just catch myself like, when was the last time you listened to a message? Like it's everything is worship. Most of my quiet time mornings are not even like, I don't even play worship songs that much. Once in a while. Most of the time when I just press the cam, play on. We go there. So we have to be people who are deep. And I even many years ago when I wanted to be serious with God, like many years ago, I had an iPod, you know the big one. What do we call it? Classic, right? 120 or 180 gig or whatever. I cleared all the I didn't have much music, but it was full of camps, messages, preaching. That was it. Music was like I had like 3 Tommy Walker albums. Then I had 3 or 2 Andre Crouch. That was it. And I had Kept Franklin, but selected, like not few of his. That was it.
Everything else was preaching.
Every center you turn is a message, is a preaching. Yeah. So we have to be people that, and even for me, sometimes, even now on the podcast, when you listen, you hear some old ones and then some new ones. So sometimes when it's old, I'm like, this is old. I want to move it to like a current message. Then sometimes I'm like, no, just let it play. And funny enough, I get so blessed, with the old ones. So I think that we should just, like you said, we should just let it play. Let's let it be a lifestyle, and you see how it will affect the change in your life.
So, our next question is based on chapter 32, and it says, faith will enable you to abandon wealthy cities for Christ. For you as missionaries, coming from a more wealthy to a less wealthy city, how do you maintain or increase your faith? Wow.
This is a big one.
Hey, that's a big question.
Yes.
Wow. How do you increase or maintain your faith?
Okay, well, I think, should I go first?
Well, go first. Okay.
I think one beautiful thing about faith is that when you see results, when you obey small and you see results, it gives you faith to obey again, and then you see again, and then you obey again, you see again. So how do we maintain, or how do we, because we have seen what God has done before. Do you understand? The same God that took us when we were just 2, the same God that made us 10, the same God that made us 20, is the same God that has now made us hundreds. So it's like, if God has done this, then why should us? I think that's how we are able to, and we keep trusting God for big things, and then even if those big things is not fully manifested, you see glimpses of it coming to pass. So I think for me, I'd say that's what keeps me going. Like I always say that God did this yesterday. He will do it again.
For me personally, I always say that my mind is always also focused on those who've done it.
Yes.
I always keep my eyes on them. Those who are doing well, my eyes are always focused on them. That makes me believe that if God can do it for this person, if God can use this person, if this place is working, why can't my own? Yeah, so that's one thing that motivates me when I see other missionaries who have big cathedrals, big churches, things are working for them. I'm like, no, if the same God that has done it there, it's the same God that can do it where I am. So I keep believing, I keep moving.
Hopefully your question has been answered. So the next question is slightly related to that, and it says Bishop has many times said that due to the ministry, he has been able to travel to many wealthy cities all over the world. How do you know if where you want to travel to is due to the direction or blessings of God, or due to your own pleasures? What a question! So how do you know you want to go to this country not because you want to go on mission, but you're doing it because it's possible, but not because you just want to travel?
Well, the thing is somebody sent me.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh!
And also the motive. What's motivating you to travel?
Traveling.
Because sometimes we travel, but I want to
Want to do
motivate.
something.
I go into was like, I like the night, like, and then somehow you just massage it with missions, and you just say, no, but what's the true motive? What's the true motive?
And the thing is, if you want to be a missionary and it's from your heart, no matter where they send you, you wouldn't complain. But if you want to be a missionary and then when they say go here, you start mumbling. And when they say go here, you're, oh fine, this one I can take. Then it's like you are selective with, and when God is calling you, it's not about options. So yeah, I think checking your motive really helps you to know.
I remember one of the, I don't know what it was, but when I think there was I don't know if it was last MSL in Ghana or one of the messages, and then Bishop called him up and then he was like, oh yeah, he's a missionary, and he's like, yeah, when Bishop told him he was going on missions, he thought maybe he was going to the UK or to this part, and then because Bishop mentioned, I can't remember what country it was, but it was a country he was not expecting, and he was like, okay, and he went. And what in my head when I heard, I was like, wow, even though he had his own ideas of where he wanted to go, when Bishop mentioned a country that was completely different, he still went. So I guess his motive and his real desire was to go on mission, so that's why he was able to
That's the
explore
thing,
it.
And that was the same for us when we had the opportunity to go on missions. We were literally like, where do you want us to go? Because they asked, would you want to go on missions? Our answer was, yes, we want to go. Then the next question is, where do you want to go? So if our motive was we want to just go and have a high life somewhere, we would have meant, but we said, wherever you want us to go. And then that's how our mind was. So I agree with what LB was saying, that you must be open to and flow wherever you are sent to go. Believe and go.
So another question for you guys is, how can you always have faith in the good and bad? Because I realize that it's one thing to say you have faith, but when situations arise, you realize you didn't have faith at all.
I think I like this question because that's the issue for a lot of us. Even on missions, when you go, you're full of faith. I don't know, I feel like, I don't think they sell us this dream, but when you're hearing the message, the islands are waiting. You think that people are sitting and waiting. Do you understand? Or like, oh, the souls are dying. So you read that people, somebody's dying, I need to go and rescue them. Then you get there and the person you are saving doesn't even think that they need saving. They are giving you attitude and you're thinking, what? So then you start questioning yourself and you start doubting yourself, and it's like your faith begins to, dwindle. But I think that it's very normal to be feeling like that sometimes. But it's not for us to beat ourselves and say, oh, maybe I don't have faith. But I think in life, whenever anything becomes difficult to achieve, we just almost sort of give up, right? Because when you think about Abraham and Sarah, they gave up faith. That's why Sarah decided and suggested the guy to bear the child, even though God had promised them. But it's like maybe God has forgotten. Maybe he's not going to do it. So it's very normal for us as Christians to sometimes feel like that. But it doesn't mean that we don't have faith. It just means that we have to rise up and encourage ourselves and build ourselves.
Yeah. That's not true. I think everything has been said, and I also feel that in moments like that, sometimes you also have to build your faith. The Bible says in Jude that building up yourself on your most holy faith, praying in the Spirit. So sometimes, when you're going through those situations that you feel like it's not working, I'm losing all hope. Sometimes you just need to build up your faith. You need to pray and let that faith rise. Because there are situations where faith is really, really low. Like when you're going through the storms, remember that story when Jesus was lying in the boat and everybody was crying, oh, what's going on? The storm was so overwhelming for the disciples, and he said, oh, ye of little faith. And sometimes, when the storms are rising, our faith is dwindling, it goes low. But I always feel that, there's a place of prayer to build up and to strengthen your faith, which is something that we need to go to in times of,
But also, I found that one thing I've noticed is that when you are going through the really difficult times, those are usually the moments that's hard for you to pray or hard for you to build up. So how do you practically get yourself to the point where you can actually pray and build up your faith, like you said?
But you see, with prayer, like, are you expect like to have like a long hours of prayer? Because sometimes a short hour of prayer, you look at the psalmist David. Some of the short prayers, short cries to God, and they strengthened him. They kept him going in his weak moments. So sometimes with prayer, we think that we have to pray hours. We have to pray, shouting in tongues. Sometimes it could just be a short 10-minute prayer, heartfelt prayer. That will strengthen your faith and will keep you above the water.
And also David said that, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. So not every prayer your mouth is open. Sometimes your thoughts, your meditations, your cries, God is hearing. It's all prayer.
A form of prayer.
Yes.
Sometimes you're like, Lord, I just don't have strength. That's all you say. But you're saying something. Because God understands. I think that sometimes you think that God doesn't understand. Sometimes as you're praying 5 hours and you're faking, God knows that you are faking. Yeah, just kind of, take your 5-hour gap. So it's like, pray. So God really knows us. All He wants us to do is just to come.
Yeah.
And just say that this is what it is.
Ironically enough, you guys are on to the next question.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the next question was, how do you develop your faith to where it never wavers in spite of how life goes on?
Yeah, but I think faith will always, it will always waver, but it will not die. I think that's the thing. So when you take, I remember I always use this example. Our first year in bigger than any of these trees, right opposite our house. And when a hurricane is happening here, you've not seen some before. Cars fly. Like it's that powerful.
Wow.
And we only had category 1, but it was like an action movie because we never seen it before. So here we are looking at our neighbor's, yard, and the huge mango tree starts bending and bending and bending, and oh yes, like I'm telling you, like it just broke. It broke. It broke. It broke. Many trees broke. I don't know any coconut tree that broke. That's why when you go to the beach, you will see some coconut trees. They are very bended, but they are never broke. So this is a coconut tree that has gone through different seasons and phases of life. Different winds have come along the beach to blow it. Different tides. It will bend, but it will never break. Wow. So we will have moments in our lives where something will shake you. It will make you weak. It will make you dense for a little while. But you have to decide that, like, no matter what, leaving God or leaving the church or leaving the ministry or leaving the mission is not. It's not the solution. I'd rather be classified as a mad person in my father's house. I'd rather be classified as the bad girl in my father's house. I'm still there. Even if I'm the one with the bad name, I'm the one who's called the girl beater in the church. I prefer to be the official girl beater than to live and backslide, because out there is nothing for you. So your faith can be. We can never have a faith. I don't know anybody in this world. Look at even Paul. Paul said that we are pressed but not crushed. So he had that moment. Persecuted. So he's like, you will have those moments, but make sure that it doesn't finish you. It doesn't finish you. That's how it is. It's like anybody who's got chicken pox. Sometimes you check their skin, you see.
Yeah.
Oh,
You see all the signs.
it came, but it didn't kill us. But we have the scars to show that, I've got chicken pox before. But we are still here.
Wow. It's funny because one of the favorite testimonies I like listening to people that, not that they've left the faith, but like they kind of like backslid, but they're still Christians, and then they come back and give it to something that even though I did this, even though I stopped coming to church all the time, I was still the Christian.
Yeah, I knew my God.
It's one of my favorite testimonies. It shows that no matter how far they even moved, they still had a sense of faith and believe that God still existed, God is still there. Whereas there's a lot of people, and it's a trend on social where a lot of professed Christians that were talking all the time on Twitter, on Instagram, they've just been leaving the faith one after the other, one after the other.
I think they call it church hurt.
Yeah, and even when they leave, it's like they don't believe in God at all. They're like, God is not real. They don't believe in God. And it's like, you've written books, you've done this. How can you not come and tell people
that God,
you won't
same God?
You believed it. You spoke about, you wrote about no longer exists. So it's like, even when people are not as serious in church, or even when they start back, I'm just like, hey, they're still coming, they're still there. So it is what it is.
It's better.
Yeah,
It's better. Trust me. Trust me. God will still love you by your efforts. Yeah.
So our next two questions.
Alright.
This will be
Almost
our
there.
final discussion.
Almost there.
So one of the questions is, often as Christians, we usually imagine that God only gives us the hard and difficult things to obey. So when God is giving you pleasurable commands, how do you obey them easily without self-sabotaging them?
Well, I think we answered a bit in the first one.
And then our last question is, we also think about this, faith loves preparation, but God has his own rule, and sometimes we don't know what that involves. So how do you prepare according to your faith when perhaps God has something else planned for you?
We touched on it before. But I think, how do you prepare? Prepare as to what you pray for. Like in our church, we have 100 chairs. Because we've always been believing 100 chairs. Recently, I went out and I bought more chairs. Because I'm like, we've exceeded the 100. So we have not prepared to bring in more people. So now I have more chairs. That's why people will build a big building. It doesn't mean that you currently have the big building, but by your faith you are believing that it will be filled. So that's how it is. Just whatever you pray for, whatever you believe for, plan according to that. Yeah. If you're planning for a mega church, then build a mega church. Yeah. If you're planning for a good home. Then start making yourself and make your 1-bedroom house a home. Let when people come to your place, they don't want to leave. Use your friends as practice. Serve them tea. Serve them biscuits. It's not now. You see, some people, they are so fake. When you're not going to visit your mother-in-law, they say, should I wash the car? Should I? Like, it becomes like, it's not you.
Yes.
And then your friends will be like,
Hey, you watch this.
like, is this you? Exactly. You know, but if it is you, if it's your nature, everywhere you go, I always tell people, character. Nobody can take character away from you. People can take your money, people can take your, but if you have good character, look at Joseph, he had good character. No matter what happened to him, he was still raised up again by character. Even as he was in a bad situation as a prisoner, and in the prisoner, he was the class prefect of the prisoners. What should that tell you? Character. So whatever we are praying for, you have to prepare yourself for it. And the people say, I want to be a pastor. You can't be a pastor and you're fornicating left, right, center with other people. You cannot be a pastor and then you are doing other things. Oh, I believe God, you know, in future I'll become a pastor. Start wearing suits like a pastor. Start talking to people as a pastor. Start wearing shoes like a pastor. Wear white shoes. The one that comes out, cut your hair like do things like you're preparing. And then that's how you get there. Of course, back by prayer.
You know, one of the things I always remember that you say, like you said before when I first joined the church, is that you are before you become.
Yes.
So anything you want to be or anything you feel like you're called to be, you are actually it
You
before.
are actually.
Like if you want to be a pastor, you're a shepherd already. Like,
Thank
that's
you.
what a pastor is. Pastor is a shepherd.
Yeah.
So as you're bringing people to church, you're doing a center. That's basically like a mini
You are a
mini
pastor.
church in itself.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we don't see as
See
we
like
see as
that.
oh, pastor is this,
Yeah.
a wife is this, but then we
Yeah.
don't see the preparation
No,
that's
we
done
don't
behind
see.
that.
We don't see.
You know, if you're
Yeah.
being nice to people,
Yeah.
talking to people,
Yeah.
people handling skills and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
It's like a little like a practice run for us before you, because you can't be a imagine
Can't
you're
wait for
supposed
the
to a
title
pastor and you
before
can't
you
talk to
become the
people.
thing.
They're always
Yeah.
shouting and saying, "No, I'm going to you. I'm shouting at you."
Yeah.
So I think you are before you become, and it's a
Absolutely.
good thing to have as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think and that's why I also tell people we don't have Sunday God. We don't have Bacenta God. We don't have weekday God. We don't have camp God. People only save their tears for camp, so they go and cry and roll on the floor. Why can't you cry and roll on the floor on a Sunday?
Yes, it's true.
Do you understand? People save all their special dances for joint service. Why don't you do it? And like, because you are looking at the crowd.
Yes.
The same God that is for the 1,000 is the same God that is in the place of the 10 people. So me, I always tell people, if you're working with me, we are doing this and we are doing this good. Even if it's only 4 people, even this stream, even if it's only 4 people that will watch it, we are doing it to the extreme. So that one day when Ghana calls us to do it, we have already prepared it to a certain level. So when we sit there, nice and easy, but we don't prepare because we are only preparing for our small MBC group that we don't even know the people. You see, so we have to be people that always have that eye of what I'm doing is for God, it's not for man. Always have that. We don't have a Sunday God. Why are you saving all your clothes? When you go to Bacenta, you have a head scarf, you have a bonnet. You just wear flip-flops anyhow. Then when you go to church on Sunday, you swap out. But who do you go to talk about on your Bacenta?
Still God. Wow.
Same importance has to be shown. Same importance has to be given. So I think that all these showed our level of preparation and our level of seriousness, even with what we are doing.
It also shows we've got a very fulsome balance as well with certain stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our Q&A and the end of our panel discussion for this month's book, which was Faith Secrets. It's been a pleasure having Lady Pastor Esme and Reverend Mutendo and Priscilla here as well to discuss the books. We hope you've been so blessed by our discussion, and we'll also be continuing the discussion on the group chat as well, you know, watching the video and participating. Our next month's book will be communicated to everyone shortly. Yes, shortly. I want to thank you for taking the time to tune in and to listen to us discuss. And we want to say a last thank you to our special guest, and thank you for coming today, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak to us, to advise us, to counsel us. And we want to say that as we're listening to this, may we be increasing in our faith. May we be people that listen to messages and do the most for God. Like Opie just said, you know, everything we do, we should do it that we're doing it to God. So as we're in this MBC, let's really appreciate the fact that we're in a book. We're in a book club. It shouldn't be when it's now big And it's not even going on.
Yeah,
I want to be.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
be. I was part of it. Yes, yes. So literally, I appreciate the small preparations we're doing now. So when we get the opportunity to do a bigger one, then we'll all participate as one big MBC family. So I want to thank LP and Reverend Chene for the book club for always, advising us, correcting us, and telling us this and all the little. Yes.
Behind
Read
the
a lot of
scenes.
books, I was looking at the Makarios like, I've read this one, and it's growing steadily without people that read Christian books. So thank you so much for that. And yes, so thank you for joining, and we will see you back next month.
We also have mugs available.
And we also got our mugs if you'd like to buy
and purchase.
MBC mug. Please let us know. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Hello NBC family, I hope you've enjoyed our panel discussion today for the book Faith Secrets. I have learned so much and I've loved the points that were discussed. Thank you to our lovely panelists for their insights. For the month of July, we'll be reading the powerful book Why Few Are Chosen by Bishop Dag Heward-Mills. So, let's get our copies ready as we dive into one of the new books released by our prophet. An NBC exclusive. If you've been tuning into our panel discussions, you'll notice that we have our very own merch. Our NBC mugs are available to purchase if anyone is interested for only £6. Please speak to LPSME for more information. That's all the announcements for today. Be sure to stay connected as we become ardent book readers. Bye!
I just feel it.
Yes, I just want to do one video with the mic.
With that man, with that
Stop.
stuff.
Because when we are drinking,
The tea is cold.
yeah, we were thinking I know the tea at this time there's cold. Do you want new tea or yours? Okay. I was just counting the question. I said, I know, but this question they're not finishing.
Wait, I know.
You have to show the bloopers after the break.
It's too much. I've been holding myself. I didn't want to be the one.
We'll see you next month. Bye.
All right, it's a wrap.
I was meant to be this